I'm really looking forward to this talk, and I want you all to give her a warm welcome.
Good morning, thank you for coming to see me again. I'm very grateful. I'm really looking forward to this talk. It's kind of quite a big subject, so if anyone has any questions afterwards, please feel free to come and chat with me. It's a lot to get through in quite a short space of time, but I will do my best. But I'm going to ask you some questions as well, so I would love you guys to participate a little bit. So I'm quite glad to see that the Micro Sanctuary Instagram page has been sharing a lot about how animal care is activism, and I think it's something that we need to think about a little bit more because some of the stuff you can literally do at home just with a very small amount of skills depending on the species that you feel that you can care for. Obviously when we're out and about and on the ground we are faced with all sorts of different things, and I think as activists in our communities, maybe if we're not around other people that are known to be caring for animals, people will come to us and say, oh, they're vegan, surely they know how to care for a pigeon that I found on the street. So we kind of are representing animals just by this label of calling ourselves vegan, and I think we kind of need to make sure that we really do address that, and we do kind of step up to that expectation, because I think when animals come into our care, we can make very different decisions versus other people that maybe have more of a welfare mindset. Mistakes do happen in animal care, and we just have to be very transparent and open about that. I've made plenty, but I've also learned a lot of lessons along the way. And dealing with animals that have come from the industry, they will have more problems. So it's really important that we kind of know how to treat them. These animals aren't supposed to live past a certain amount of time. So by us having this knowledge, we can ensure that they have not only just a longer life, but a comfortable life, and a life that's actually worth living. I really think like knowledge very much is power, and the more that we know, the better we can do, and we can always learn. I'm learning all of the time. All the cases that come to me, there's always so much value in those experiences, even if they don't end well. And I think it's okay to be wrong. We can't know everything. Some of these animals aren't used to being treated past a certain amount of time, and some of these issues that we see are industry-caused problems. They don't get treatment. So some of this we are very much learning on the job. And as I said yesterday, we really struggled to get it right for dogs, so we have to bear that in mind, that there's a lot to know and a lot to research, and we need to take a lot of time to try and enhance the skill sets that we already have and cater to animals that are slightly different. Just as an example for the experiences that I'm going to talk about today, this is a chicken that was rescued off of a lorry that had actually had a major crash. So there's chickens all over the road. Probably one of the most awful things I've ever witnessed in my life. I'm not even going to share the videos, it's so horrific. So so my story, I don't know if anyone ever saw this photo from Meet the Victims in Barcelona. Whew, that was a really, really traumatic event for me, as you can see from this very unfortunate photo. So I was having a conversation with someone yesterday about how I feel very lucky that animal care and the intuition to kind of do certain things with animals came very naturally to me. And I think if you've got that passion and that empathy, you can't necessarily teach that. So it's really important to try and enhance that gift that you already have to care for animals. And there's so much to do and a lot to learn. I was involved in veterinary nursing from very young, from sort of the age of like 15 really. I was working in my local vet clinic, and I was very lucky to meet certain people who really gave me a bit more of an insight about how to have consideration towards animals and their needs. I had a lot of surgery myself when I was a young child, and those experiences I really feel had a massive knock-on effect for me to be able to really see my patients and what they actually really need. There's a lot of under-treatment that goes on for different species, and I think pain is really, really undervalued, and how much that can create so many other problems. It's really undertreated. I was always into animal welfare from the moment I kind of stepped into animal care, and then got into studying and then veterinary nursing as a profession. I was always the person to say, I'm not okay with this doesn't sound right, I think we can do this better. It's not a comfortable situation to be in all the time, but I guess I was lucky that I was confident, and I've obviously pushed those boundaries my whole career. I got into animal rights about 5 years ago. It's been a real whirlwind of a journey. I've seen, witnessed and experienced so many different things. But this particular moment, I was so baffled that I was stuck in Circus Pig Farm and I was surrounded by dying animals and I couldn't do anything. If this was a young puppy, I would have had 1,000 things I could have done for that animal. You know, we would have hooked them up to a drip, oxygen, we would have taken blood, we would have done some treatment to try and save this animal, but because we were stuck in a pig farm, I couldn't do any of those things. And it was really, really heartbreaking. So yeah, what I kind of started to see was that a lot of activists were without some specific knowledge. So when we were in this pig farm, people hadn't noticed that the floor was littered with pigtails because they maybe just hadn't seen those things before. So I think just having the additional awareness of the industry and animals in general, I was able to pick up on a lot of things that maybe other activists just didn't have the ability to see at the time. And as soon as everyone saw it, it was like, oh my God, there are pigtails absolutely everywhere, all over the whole farm. So I hope that today I can share some skills with you that will be relevant and that you'll be able to use when you guys are out and about. And one thing I will always say is always push for their needs. If you feel that there's something else we can do, ask for it. So we're going to go through some case studies that I've experienced along the way. There are a lot of situations that you may find yourself with animals on the ground. Whether it's occupations, you've decided to do an occupation inside a farm, whether there's been a road traffic accident. In the UK, we've had a couple of instances of the police running over animals that have escaped, but on purpose. Recently there was some police that purposely run over a calf who was in a residential area multiple times. It was all filmed. That wasn't the first time they'd done it. I did a radio piece speaking about this, because imagine if that was a different species, the public would have gone absolutely crazy. And it kind of did hit quite a lot of press at the time, but there were some dogs that were shot in London by Metropolitan Police. There's varying reasons why that took place. I have done a video on that on my Instagram explaining that a little bit more in detail. Also just random street rescues. Sometimes you are just walking down the road and because you're aware of animals, you see someone that needs assistance and you may not know what to do. You don't know who to call. There's a lot of limitations in different countries to know who to call and what to do, especially if you are travelling. There's also facility closures. Some farms, thankfully, are closing down, or shops are closing down that have animals in, and there's an opportunity to be able to rescue animals from there. Boarding situations are always very complex, but you know, animals need assistance from spaces like that. And also negotiations. You know, if you walk in somewhere and you see someone suffering, but they're for sale, for example, you can negotiate those animals out of there. Obviously, I've always just used my nice actress behaviour, and that's managed to get some animals out. Oh, it's my birthday, and oh my God, I really love this turtle, and not paid for them, and then that's assisted them in their freedom, and we'll go through negotiations later. So yeah, there's just lots of instances where you may be able to assist animals out of an oppressive situation. There's not enough time to go through all the stories, but I will do my best. So yeah, and then just having this additional sort of animal care knowledge on top can basically mean that rescue can go far better than maybe it would have if you just didn't have that information. What I will say is do know your risks and the laws surrounding these different situations. I have now faced a lot of backlash and a lot of problems legally with some rescues that I've participated in. So yeah, just be very mindful of that. There are obviously defences to be able to help sick and dying animals depending on the country that you're in, because you are preventing a crime which technically should be animal suffering, but we know that that is a very difficult thing to achieve. So just on here, we've got the hen from the RSPCA farm. This is 2024. This hen you can see has been debeaked and is obviously in terrible condition. So the RSPCA have what they call sort of welfare labels to make people buy products from these animals and from their labour, but obviously, as we know, it doesn't make any difference whether you stick a label on there or not. These animals are still suffering the same experiences. This hen did survive. She went to a sanctuary and was assisted. We did some treatments for her, and she's gone on to do very, very well. And this duckling here was a rescue that I was involved in, which was very, very fun. But as soon as they came out, ducklings would always be extremely thirsty. Very often they won't have the actual access to water. It will just be nipple drinkers, which just never really fully meets their requirements. They're always very thirsty, and their ability to put their beak into the water for the first time is exhilarating for these poor animals, because a lot of them won't have access to water like that. So yeah, I wouldn't usually be handling animals like that. When they just come off the farm, they'll be very, very stressed, but we were in a bit of a rush. So yeah, that's just a picture from there. So I don't know, some of you in the room may or may not remember a rescue, a rabbit fur farm rescue in Barcelona a couple of years ago, and there's been a lot of rabbit rescues since then. Rabbits specifically are very sensitive creatures, and from what I've been told, a lot of the rescues before I got involved had died within 2 weeks of rescue. Does anyone here know much about rabbits? They feel they have good rabbit knowledge? Okay, cool. So one of the main things with rabbits is they are a prey species. They will hide all of their symptoms and just get on with it the best that they possibly can. But they need to be constantly consuming food, and if they don't, they get what's called gut stasis and they die. They don't really show any symptoms. They can die very, very quickly. And what happens is, if you end up rescuing a large group of animals and say they're all white, or they all look a particular way, once you put them into a sanctuary, the sanctuary carers aren't going to know their personality. They're not going to know who's pooping, who's eating, and who's doing what. So it's very hard to keep an eye on them to make sure that they're consuming food and that they're thriving and doing well. So from what I was informed about of these rabbits dying very soon after rescue is, I kind of had a thought, and I thought, right, I think the best thing that we can do is gut load them before they reach the sanctuary. And there was a large number of rabbits that were rescued from the particular farm. You can see little Netiri in the middle, who was the rabbit that she was spinning in the cage, which is why she caught my eye. So she had symptoms of what's called echiniculi, very, very common on farms, and you can see the rabbit next to her as well. It's from TNS Rabbits in the UK, which has been shut down since, thankfully. We organised a big emptying of the farm, which was hard work. There's 122 rabbits to sort out, but it was highly successful. But yeah, echiniculi is quite common on these farms, and what happens is they can't physically get to the water or the food, so they just starve to death and die. Plus, they can have other symptoms such as seizures and things like this. So so basically gut loading them before they reach the next destination seems to work. Everyone not only survived, but the pregnant females that came out happily gave birth and everyone lived, as far as I'm aware, which was a huge success. And that's just with a very, very small amount of information. So as you can see here, there's basically a high fibrous paste. It's called recovery. It comes in a powder form. You add a bit of water, just follow the instructions. It's not too difficult. And basically, you just fill them with a certain amount of this liquid food. You do need to make sure it's not too watery, otherwise you can cause aspiration pneumonia. So you need to be careful and follow the instructions. A lot of videos on YouTube about this, about how to syringe feed rabbits. The other thing is also stress for these guys. Again, being prey species, not used to being around human beings, they will overheat very quickly. Do not sit there and cover them; they will hate it. They suffer a lot with stress. So it's very, very important that they kind of have like an ability to decompress after a rescue as well. It's very important. To be mindful of who's eating and who's passing feces as well. Very important. And in terms of the sanctuaries, it's kind of better that they may be in slightly smaller groups, so everyone can keep an eye on who's doing what as well. That's really important. That simple thing of just having that bit of knowledge saved a lot of animals, and it's really simple and very, very cheap to do. So on here, I think this was the farm. You can see how obviously they're kept. So there's no ability for them to forage and eat high fibrous foods. Obviously they're on wire flooring as well. So they will have things like what's called pododermatitis. So if you imagine their foot is like this. They have like a very bony bit, it's almost like the elbow, and often they will, even indoor rabbits have this as well. You kind of need to check that as well. It can be very, very infected and very nasty and very painful. So things like that are important to check. And of course, yeah, as I was saying, this issue of E. caniculi. So with any rescue, it's really important to treat them all as individuals and make sure everyone is okay, and sort of do like a proper check-in of each patient, and to make sure that there isn't anything that's gone unnoticed. So Natiri, when she first came out, was awful. Like, I thought she was going to die, but literally with very basic, like one-to-one care in this very random house that I was in with this random rabbit with people I didn't know, we managed to get her drinking and eating, and found some weeds on the side of the road, and she started eating and was washing herself here. And I'll just replay the video at the end. She was a beast. She's absolutely massive. She got a lot bigger than that, but she was still affected neurologically ever so slightly as well. But it was such a great rescue. It was really cool. Thank you. So, does anyone know the differences between broiler and laying hens in terms of their needs? A couple of people nodding. Okay, they're very, very, very different. Even though they're the same species, they're very different. So, we'll quickly just go into broiler hens. Broiler chickens for now. I'll just check what the next video is.
Sorry.
It's okay. The sound isn't that important.
Yeah, sound is there now, but the cable is loose.
For meat consumption, and generally they are sorted at 6 weeks old, where they're around 2.5 kilos. So obviously during that 6 weeks they grow very, very quickly, which causes huge strain on the heart, the respiratory system, and of course their legs as well. So it's very difficult to rehab them when they're very young because they're still technically growing. So you don't want to be overfeeding. I shouldn't touch the laptop. You don't want to be overfeeding them because obviously they're already like obese at the time, but they're also young and technically should still be growing. So you'll notice that if you rescue them at 6 weeks, they will be making baby chick sounds, but they're just stuck in this giant body. So again, first things first with broilers, they will be very, very thirsty. They will be often chronically dehydrated. They overheat very, very easily. So when I have had them, and I've learned all this myself just from the experiences, often we'll have a fan on or like a spray mist with some water. And if you spray the birds, they will often clean themselves and obviously drink, and it will cool them down as well. Sometimes I will put wet towels on the ground, especially in the summer if they're really struggling as well, and obviously keep them out of the sun. The other thing is with these birds is they will eat and eat and eat. They are literally programmed to consume a large volume of high-fat food. These chickens obviously would have been fed on pellet food, so you kind of need to begin to transition them onto like a fresh diet. but that's not very easy to just do. As much as chickens are very curious, some of them will take longer to transition onto a fresh-based food. You kind of also need to start to diet them at the same time as assisting them in their growth. So it's a very, very fine balance. Myself and a couple of other people that have been kind of working with these hens have been kind of making our own concoction of different types of foods, things like oats, a lot of chopped vegetables. You can buy low-fat bird pellets as well, so we do use those and just really limit them. They cannot live with other chickens because they will devour all of the food and become morbidly obese, and it will just shorten their lives massively. So one thing that I've also done with these birds a lot is basically I never feed them in a bowl, ever, ever, ever. You need to make them stand, you need to make them search for their food and do normal chicken things, which is to search for their food. So basically at home, in the random places that I have lived, I would just do things like giving them moss. You can see obviously they sit down a lot, stand up, sit down. And it just helps them just to strengthen those muscles a little bit, because otherwise they will just choose to sit down if they can. So things like leaf litter, soil, you can still do all this inside. I've just got some puppy pads down for them, and like a bed of moss and leaf litter and compost and stuff like that. AstroTurf is kind of good, unless they'll try and eat the bits of plastic, and they sometimes will also eat the Inco sheets, the puppy pad plastic. So you need to be very careful because they will just eat and eat and eat. So this kind of keeps them active, it keeps them curious, and makes them do normal things. And just like the differences in like how they use their legs, because they will just be used to sitting down. They generally, in the farms, there's not really any space for them to sit and scratch around on the floor. So this will just help them, try to rebuild some of those muscles. Have any of you handled these types of chickens before and picked them up? Like when you touch them, like their chest area just feels like a bag of water. Like they're very strange, like they're so fat, they feel very strange when you pick them up. They will really suffer with leg problems, so it's really important that when you handle them, generally I put my hand in between their chests like this, and sort of between the legs. If you try and hold the legs, they will just start screaming, it's very painful. Very often we'll make sure that they get some pain relief as well, something like Metacam or some sort of anti-inflammatory medication, because it will help them rebuild their muscle and walk and move a lot more. They will be painful. So that's kind of like a standard thing that we started to do now with broilers. Leg problems will be the biggest issue, heart problems as well, and obviously just generally being obese, and those things also come together. So you kind of, the new treatment plan ideally will actually treat all of those problems to a degree. Some maybe live 6 weeks, some may live a year, and some may live 4 years. It's very unpredictable, but keeping them up, keeping them moving and getting them outside, foraging for food will really, really help. So try to keep them active and get them up and get them moving. Khalif came to me completely collapsed. He actually came to me in a shopping bag with his, I would say his brother. And they both did really, really well. Both of them did fantastic. And I sent them to Sanctuary, who didn't have many broilers. They need one-to-one care. As much as it's wonderful to go and rescue 1,000 of them, there's just no way you can meet their care. A lot of sanctuaries actually won't take broilers because to do it right, they need a lot of intensive therapy. There are slight differences in some of the breed tactics that they use now. So they are supposedly some other breeds that aren't as heavy, and some individual birds will just do better than others, but it's just these sort of things that will make a difference. They're also always filthy, so always just give them a little bath as well. They're just great. I just love broilers. They're just wonderful, wonderful animals to rehab. They're probably one of my favourites, to be honest. Then you've got Katniss here. She's a hen that was rescued from an egg farm. The photo is actually very graphic. She's probably got 80% of her scalp completely missing. So on egg farms, they will often obviously debeak them. It's very, very painful going through that process. It's got a lot of nerve endings in the beak, so a lot of them will just die because it's too painful to eat. The ones that survive, it doesn't prevent actual pecking of other chickens. They will severely injure themselves for all kinds of different reasons. So this chicken went to somebody who definitely did not and does not have capacity to provide one-to-one care and doesn't really use a vet. So I was like, bring them to me and I will deal with it. She maybe cost probably about £700 to fix. I had to send her for surgery because the edge of the scalp was so infected. It's like she almost looked like she had a facelift. Her face was so swollen and her eyes were very closed because it was so swollen around the top and very infected. So I sent her for surgery and she did very, very well. She actually only just passed this Easter gone. I think she probably did about 5-6 years. In a very, very lovely micro sanctuary. She was top dog very quickly in her little flock and she did really, really well. With hens coming from these industries, I cannot stress enough how much they need reproductive care. Again, you could go and rescue 1,000 from an egg shed, but the likelihood is that a lot of them will die from egg peritonitis because they are laying far too many eggs. It has a massive detriment upon their health. So with these guys, very often they will be without like a decent amount of calcium. So often I will supplement that with a product called CALC2024. You can ask me for that afterwards. Mix that into their food and just really good like probiotics and feed them back their eggs and that kind of thing. A lot of them will be very underweight. So again, very different to broilers. So it's important just to cater to those needs. And she had one-to-one care and she really needed that. She was great, like she became very friendly very quickly. I used to I was house sharing at the time and I would do yoga in my room and she would be on me trying to do yoga. If I was meditating, she would be sat on my lap. She was great. And yeah, she went on to have a really, really great life. But yeah, in terms of long-term care and going to sanctuaries, you are burdening a sanctuary with a lot of work by rescuing some of these animals. So just be very mindful of that. I always try to donate when I have animals and take them to sanctuaries. It's really important that we try and create like some sort of fundraiser as and when it's safe to do so, depending on the action that led to their freedom. So yeah, you can see them. They did so well. And they would follow me everywhere. Like on the way to the sanctuary, I took them to a field of really long grass, and they would just come running. It was beautiful. It's like a scene out of a movie. Why the fuck is not coming up? Is there a way to like refresh the page? It says you're offline.
I'll check that.
So everyone will tell you that they are an expert in dogs. It's like a real common thing. It's like, oh, my nan's cousin's brother's sister had a poodle, and therefore I know everything. So there is so much to know about dogs, and we still really fail them. So again, don't become complacent. There is always things to learn, and I'm learning all of the time, and I work with dogs on a very, very regular basis. Dogs obviously get the most protection in terms of law and within society, more so in some countries than others. I think that's important, as Chris was talking about yesterday. In Asian countries, unfortunately dogs suffer greatly as well. So it's important to be very mindful of that. However, most of the resources will be put into investigations and rescue and rehabilitation. Getting financial support for a puppy is very easy. The likelihood is you'll get that money. Everyone will give you different advice. You can speak to 5 different vets about a fractured leg and they'll tell you very often different things. So it's important to try and find someone who is really dedicated to doing what's right by the individual. There is sometimes over-treatment as well as under-treatment. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. With different diseases and things like that, it's important to be mindful of can that animal cope with that type of interaction and that type of long-term care. There is a massive problem with breed labelling. We're very obsessed with saying, oh, this dog is a collie crossed Rottweiler, this is a Labrador crossed Staffordshire Bull Terrier, this is a Pit Bull. Now those labels carry misconceptions and preconceived thoughts about what that breed does, acts, how they are in general. We've all had different experiences with different types of dogs. But in rescue or in society, they carry a lot of weight, and that doesn't mean that's a good thing. The term pit bull is very problematic. It comes with a lot of problems, and it doesn't do the dog any favour whatsoever. So if you see a dog that's a crossbreed, the dog is a crossbreed. Keep it simple. It will help them massively. There's no benefit to saying, I think this dog is a poodle cross Maltese Chihuahua. It doesn't help anybody. So when I did some work over in America, I went to New York and LA, and they are now calling them like American shelter dogs, small, medium, and large. There's no changes with that. It's not going to change your mindset of, oh, well, I don't know if I really want a Labrador. I don't know if I really want a collie type dog in my flat that's 6 stories up. You know, so it's really, really important. The most important thing for dogs is to see them for who they are and try to meet their individual needs. That's really important. And behaviour misunderstandings. There's a small dog here that's asleep in the back who is clearly coping with the conference very, very well. There's been no displays of fear, anxiety and stress, which Adele was talking about yesterday in cats. And those things are really important, because when you mislabel them and you say, well, this dog's really nervous or this dog is food aggressive, that label and that idea follows them for the rest of their life, and not necessarily in a good way, because it's very, very context specific. So it's really important to be mindful of, is the behaviour that you're planting upon this dog actually even correct? You know, a lot of people say, oh, my dog's dog aggressive. Are they dog aggressive, or they just don't like that dog because they're on a lead? So it's very, very important to know what you're talking about. If you don't know, don't answer the question. Your input is not required. In terms of laws, there's a lot of laws around dogs. They're obviously, as I said, they are the most protected, I would say, in society, but there are horrific laws put upon dogs. So dogs upon here, most of them would be classed as all breed type dogs. And there's a lot of laws, discriminatory laws that come around them. In America, you can't have a pit bull, but you can have a tiger, for example. These dogs are unfortunately associated with safety problems, being high volumes of them within shelters, and people don't want to adopt these dogs because of the names that we give them. But when you actually meet these dogs, they are wonderful, loyal, kind, smart dogs who will do anything for anybody, which is why they get in so much trouble. And from working with these types of dogs, I couldn't advise them more. As companions, they are seriously wonderful. But there's a lot of discrimination that carries with them, and that massively affects their ability to find shelter space, to get funding, or to even keep their own lives. These dogs will be the most likely dog to end up being killed in a rescue, or the police shooting. So just be very careful with when you label certain types of dogs. I've done a lot of dog bite prevention work through sort of my veterinary work, because a lot of people are very quick to muzzle dogs, but actually if you try to work on consent-based care, you don't always just need to muzzle a dog for a blood sample. You can help teach them that nothing awful is going to happen, you know, local anaesthesia, going very slowly, and building up really good experiences with dogs massively helps as well. There's a concept called fear-free. I'm a fear-free professional now, which I love, can't advise enough. It's really, really great. What you're seeing here in this picture is what I would call a pop-up rescue. They came up because in England we suddenly had this law that meant that any dog that would fit what's called an XL bully description, again just a mishmash of dogs of different sizes that look like this, were then banned and were advised to be euthanized. So this pop-up rescue is, when I say shit show, I mean it's a shit show. Multiple dogs have died, there's been no proper regulation of anything. As Adele was saying yesterday, there was no regulation upon rescues, and kind of do whatever they like. There was dogs that died that were buried on the grounds. This dog, as you can see, was emaciated, had a major injury to his tail. He's now at a very safe space, and I managed to negotiate him out very carefully, and this rescue is about to pop up and do another one. It's very, very difficult. And yeah, just be mindful of sanctuary spaces. Again, it's all well and good trying to rescue dogs, but you've then got someone that's got to invest a hell of a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of resources. And trying to find a good home for a dog is not as easy as it sounds. Most people work, there may be financial difficulties, can they meet their behavioural requirements? Do they have time to put in the work that these dogs need? A lot of these dogs are very traumatised from all sorts of different situations. So there's a lot on dogs as well in terms of their needs. I'll quickly just go through fish and crustaceans. I don't know why my photo's not loading. They, as I'm sure you'll know, they've got the least protection or consideration whatsoever. Most people would walk past someone fishing, wouldn't even think twice. But they are the easiest to negotiate. Being super nice, trying to help, having a group of people is really helpful, and you can get animals out of these spaces, but you need to know the species that you're rescuing. For example, with lobsters or crustaceans, there's no point trying to rescue one, say you're in England, but actually that species comes from Canada, you can't just go and release them in the water. Plus the likelihood is that water is going to be a very unsafe space for those animals to go back into. Fish sanctuaries and fish groups are probably the least resourced, unless they're a big NGO, they've got a lot of finances. Friends of Philip in America are kind of my go-to and an inspiration for me, and certainly for other people as well. But we're talking like hundreds of thousands of different species who have very different water and care requirements. So again, you need to know what you're doing. Just quickly, this is a carp that I rescued from a supermarket. I told them I was from the Fish Institute, and I wasn't going anywhere until they gave me this very sick fish. Unfortunately, he did die after 48 hours. I offered every fish fair in the country a lot of money to come to my place and provide them with treatment. I did everything I could that I knew, but unfortunately they still passed. But the person in the shop was going to give this fish to me in an empty bag, alive. Luckily I had some other resources with me, but that's just another example. Sheep and goats, I probably won't have time to really go into this. They need a lot of assistance. They're obviously herd animals. A lot of them, if they're very sick, will get abandoned in fields. That's how I've done quite a few negotiations. This goat here, I'll quickly just play a video, if it works. She is alive. She looked dead to me at the time. She was alive. So we followed the rules, and the authorities came and said it's not an emergency. Now, the other photos were of dead bodies. I climbed over the gate and there was 9 dead goats in the enclosure, and there was about 19 live goats. Anyway, long story, the authorities did nothing. We found the owners and basically made them surrender them over, and this is her glow up. I named her Maple, I love her. Free living pigeons. Oh, it's a shame this isn't working. Maybe this video will work. Yeah, I mean, it's a species you're going to come across a lot. There is a great advocacy group in the Netherlands doing fantastic work with de-stringing and assisting pigeons. There is a really good video on my Instagram. It's had a lot of views now, which is great, which is very simple care. I walked into a vet clinic and there was a pigeon that had just collapsed, and the vet was like, oh, I can't really find anything wrong. Right, so have we done anything? And it just left. It just died of starvation in a cage. So I was like, are you happy if I intervene? I just grabbed the equipment that I found. Luckily I did have some electrolytes, and just made the best of what I had. And luckily the pigeon recovered very quickly, and he's now back in the wild. This is a bird that we rescued whilst doing TNR with Adele. I saw this little kid on the side of the street. The reason I grabbed him so hard was because I was so stressed. I thought, if this pigeon flies off, he's done for. I had to get it right. Anyway, he went to a wildlife place in Athens, which is very overwhelmed, but that's him. Oh, this is the pigeon. So yeah, he just was left like that. So I kind of just took over with a little bit of electrolyte solution, some antibiotics and some assisted feeding. This dude did great. In like 72 hours he was up, buzzing around, and he did really, really well. This is in my bathroom. Obviously it's important to be careful when doing this. It's good to just be able to learn how to do this type of thing. This was literally the next day. I'm just going to show you this quick video. We did rescue this pig, which is why I got in so much legal trouble. This pig had symptoms of meningitis and had been purposely left in the walkway. You can see by the the floor, like the marks on the floor, and he had pressure sores on his face. So the pig farmers will often leave sick and injured animals in the walkway and leave them there. What was really strange about this though was that this was a farrowing area, so it's where mothers and their children were, and with symptoms of meningitis, it's highly infectious. So this would have spread to all of the other pigs, but this was a very well-known farm for being very problematic. Anyway, he was rescued in the back of my Mini, and off we went, very unplanned, and yeah, he did really well. I just want to finish on these species deserve the same access to healthcare as companion animals. I cannot stress that enough. Unfortunately, it's a lot of industry vets that will be helping sanctuaries, so the mindset and the options of animal care will be very different to an animal rights veterinary perspective. Animals going in, companion animals going in with the same injury as maybe a sheep, a goat, or a pigeon, for example, they should still be given like an array of options. They shouldn't just be discarded because they're pigs or because they're sheep, and we don't do that in farming. You can treat a Labrador with a joint infection very similarly. You should be offering those same options to a lamb as well with the same issues. And community decision making, I know I'm running out of time. Community decision making, if you are not sure, speak to other people. These animals are not yours. They are part of our community, and it's really important to have these conversations. Just because I think I might be an expert in that one thing, somebody else may have a different perspective, and that we're all game changer. So I always create small groups when I'm making big decisions, especially if it comes to euthanasia. And I just want to quickly finish on that. With euthanasia, it is a right that animals should be given when the time is appropriate, and it should be as kind and as least stressful as possible. Gassing animals, particularly mammals, is very common. To euthanize them, I've really strongly advised that you don't allow people to do that. They can be sedated and then be given the last injection. With birds, we have been using the cloacal entrance to give the injection to within the cloaca. Least handling, least pain, and they simply drift off to sleep. It's a much kinder way of doing it, much less stressful if they're already in pain, especially broilers with their legs. Reptiles, some people do terrible things to euthanize reptiles, including putting them alive in the freezer. So again, be very, very mindful. All of these animals can be sedated beforehand, and that includes dogs. We always sedate dogs before they euthanize, if that is possible. And we can always do better, we can always improve our standards, we can have conversations with people and try to gain as much experience as you can working in different rescues. Unfortunately, the biggest access to these places will be welfare-minded spaces, but it doesn't mean you can't learn a lot of basic information. It's going to really help you make good decisions, and then add your animal rights sort of thought process onto that. Anyway, I know I have to finish. Thank you.
I'm sorry about the
okay.
technical stuff. Sadly, we don't have time for questions because we already went over time. But you already said that people are welcome to come up and talk to you. And maybe this was your final talk on this conference, so we can give one more round of applause. Around 15-minute break, and then we have the next talk, which is on photography and animal photojournalism with Annika, and you should all come and join in because it could be very interesting. Have a nice break.
Thank you. Thank you.